Durin was transformed into a human during the Paralogium quest, the Genshin community was ablaze anticipating his inevitable release as a playable character. Finally, in Luna 3, Durin was released, and I decided what better way to help Durin learn about humanity than to bring him along to discover the nations of Teyvat and the stories they hold.
It's been a long time. I'm Durin. Everyone used to call me Mini Durin, but as you can see, I'm not really mini anymore. Do you find my appearance strange? To tell you the truth, it's still a little strange to me. I have so much to learn. I hope you don't mind if I ask you for help.
The rules are the same as always. I can only use Durin, but I can use other characters if necessary to move forward the Archon quest. All swords are allowed, but if I get his signature weapon, I can't use it until after Inazuma. Additionally, I cannot play in co-op. Otherwise, anything goes. Also, a quick note, I streamed the entirety of Mondstadt for this challenge, so for the duration of Mondstadt, you'll see, well, me in the corner. It is what it is. Durin has been one of my most anticipated characters of Nodcry, so it goes without saying I had to pull him and his weapon on my main account. While my challenge accounts are free to play, my main account is definitely not. But buying top-ups can get expensive, so I'm always looking for a safe and secure way to save money where I can. That's where today's sponsor, Top Up Live, comes in. Top Up Live is a website that gives users the opportunity to buy their favorite in-game currencies and goodies at a discounted rate. During the holidays, everyone's wallets are stretched a little thin, so being able to save money is always preferred. Top Up Live has a huge array of supported games on their website, and with a large majority of games supporting external top-up, you can grab your Genesis Crystals, Oniric Shards, Lunite, or other in-game currency without ever needing to log in. It's fast, it's easy, and it's super secure. Not to mention, with over 40,000 monthly active users, there's a reason people keep returning. However, I know that despite everything I just said, people can be a little concerned about safety with websites like this, so I'm going to show you all me paying out of pocket and using Top Up Live for my main account. So let's see how it works, shall we? When you first enter Top Up Live, you have the chance to see all the different games that Top Up Live supports. I'm topping up Genshin Impact, so all I have to do is go to Games, find Genshin Impact, and decide what I want to buy. Not only does Top Up Live have the standard Genesis Crystal packages at a discount, but they also have guaranteed character bundles providing exactly the amount of crystals needed to hit 180 wishes from zero, all at a massive discount. You can also purchase Coronal Nexus or Welkin Moon, making this truly a one-stop shop for all your top-up needs. Now, for me, while the signature weapon guarantee bundle was mighty tempting, and I knew that I only had around 20 pity on weapons banner, I decided to try my luck with a 3,280 Genesis Crystal pack. I figure if that doesn't work, I can always come back and get the signature weapon guarantee bundle. To purchase, all you need to do is enter your user ID and confirm the server. If you're looking for a discount, you can use my code REN to get an additional 12% off your purchase. Once you're ready to check out, you can hit buy now and decide how you'll pay and purchase your top up. Now, just take a look how fast this delivery is. And that's it. Believe it or not, that wasn't even priority delivery like you get in the app. So let's log in and confirm, shall we? There it is. Super quick, super easy. All that's left to do is try our luck. Before that, here's my pity. And yes, I did pull Mizuki's weapon. Can you blame me? First 10 pull. Oh, it's Dahlia. He's actually one of the 4 stars I'm missing, so that's a win in my book. Second 10 pull. Oh, super early gold. Are we getting lucky here? Oh, it's so beautiful! And it's early pity. Thanks to Top Up Live, my Durin has his signature weapon, and I was able to save some money. Truly a win-win. If you're watching this before December 31st, Top Up Live is sponsoring a giveaway happening in my Discord right now for the all-pack Crystal Top-Up bundle valued at over $200. Depending on if you've topped up since Luna 1 began, if you win, you'll receive between 98 and 196 wishes in crystals. So if there's a character coming up that you're really trying to save for, this might be your lucky break. Make sure you use the link in the description and pinned comment to try Top Up Live today and use the code REN for an extra 12% off your purchase. Thank you so much to Top Up Live for sponsoring this video, and now let's see if we can beat Genshin Impact with only Durin. We start with Amber's domain, which isn't a problem at all, since, well, the elemental monument is pyro. I had a little bit of trouble lighting the monument, but that unfortunately is a reoccurring theme. Throughout the challenge, I just forgot about Durin having 2 forms, and spent almost all of Mondstadt exclusively using his dark mode, and then for most of the remaining challenge, exclusively his light mode. Only during Sumeru did it finally click that I can, switch very easily depending on what I need, so per usual, most of the struggles are purely skill issues. Kaya's domain similarly requires minimal effort and no complicated skipping methods, so in no time at all, we've made it through 2 of the 3 domains. Finally, we have Lisa's domain, but unfortunately, the dragon with wings has no flying flying mechanic, so I had to try and jump it. And no matter how many times I do these challenges, I will never master the art of skipping Lisa's domain. Eventually, I managed to make it across and were able to complete Act 1. Now, usually, I do the pros and cons of a character between Mondstadt Acts 1 and 2. Unfortunately, my attempts to set up OBS ahead of time resulted in the recording quality getting messed up, and the quality overall suffered quite a bit. If you watched my first Arlecchino video ever on this channel, it's like that. Oops. So, we'll just make Mondstadt a little quick, and then I'll do the pros and cons before Liyue. Thanks to the quality of life updates with the handbook and experience points from collecting oculi, we make it to Act 2 in a little over an hour. After we track down the green fellow and learn about, ourselves, we end up back at Windrise to fight an Eye of the Storm. We team up with Venti, Jean, and Diluc to storm the Fatui base, and despite the boss of the domain being a pyro enemy, honestly, it could have been far worse. I'm sure I would have had a better time if I used his light mode since the targeting is far better, but well, I unfortunately forgot it existed until the bit after Act 2. Again, I really couldn't tell you how this happened. Can you guys believe this? Just take a moment to appreciate this side by side. Sorry to that one Diluc account on Twitter, you're resetting the count to 0 again. After reclaiming the Holy Lyre, we decide we haven't made Dvalin sad enough and need more of his tears to, I guess, cheer him up? Is that like 2 negatives making a positive? Putting the math aside, we struggle our way through the true boss enemy of Mondstadt before deciding we obviously didn't suffer enough and picking a fight with an overleveled Abyss Mage. Luckily though, we do manage to survive and get a free precious chest. Was it worth it? Well, not really, but at least I got the bragging rights. The domain is a bit of a struggle since the large majority of enemies are pyro, but eventually we make it through. Unfortunately, Dvalin isn't particularly thrilled to reunite with us, and with a damaged lyre and equally damaged bard, we finish Act 2. After Act 2, we unlock daily commissions, and while on the journey to one of the most inconveniently placed commissions, oh my god! Oh my god, look at them! They're so cute! I get to see the greatest quality of life update ever introduced in Genshin Impact. This is truly everything to me. We complete our daily commissions, and after a bit of leyline farming, we hit AR 15, meaning we can finally ascend Durin for the first time. I also finally got prototype Rancor from Catherine, and decided that when it comes to manure versus sewer water, at least manure can encourage growth when used correctly. Enjoy your new sword, Durin. It's probably the best you're gonna get. On the topic of the best you're going to get, I finally remembered that Durin's light mode existed. Thank you, chat, because I spent way too long trying to light this chest on fire. Listen, nobody has ever said I was good at this game. That's probably the closest thing to a niche that I've got. I decided to take advantage of the free standard wishes you get from First Ascension. Okay. I was kind of hoping for a sword. Genshin really just has to remind me of the Hexaray buffs that I can't use in this challenge. After a whole lot of weapon domain runs, we finally reach AR 18, which means another chance to do a side-by-side of new model versus 1.0 model before we start Act 3. Act 3 begins with a Hydro Abyss Mage, which was admittedly refreshing because it was at this point I remembered who I fight later in the quest. At least I can take out some frustrations ahead of time. We make it to Storm Terror's lair, and Durin learns about hazing, because being the newest person in Mondstadt, we get stuck doing all of the work. You know who would be better at fighting a Pyro Abyss Mage? Jean, or the newly buffed Venti for that matter. Actually, I'm pretty sure Diluc with his Claymore would have an easier time than we do. But no, let's make the Pyro Dragon Durin do all the work. Maybe this is like penance for, well, everything Dragonspine Durin did to Dvalin. I guess I can't argue with that. Eventually we break the 3 seals, I have a terrible time shooting wind bullets at Dvalin's blood clots, and then it's finally time for the ultimate Mondstadt rematch. Similar to Lauma, I'm planning to make these challenges going forward a little bit shorter, because that way I can edit the videos faster and get them out faster. I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I can put the entire Archon quest from Mondstadt through Notcry in one video. I'll probably always keep it in 2 parts, but at least if the videos are faster to edit, it'll be easier to get the videos out quickly. On the topic of my channel, I've decided my New Year's resolution is to really lock in with a schedule and dedicating full-time hours to my content and my channel. By making both monthly and weekly schedules for both videos and streaming, I'll be able to increase content for you guys and stick to a pretty regular upload schedule. I know I'm already late with this video, but in my defense, Midia got time off from her language studying for the holidays and had one singular day free, so we went to the mall. Even I need occasional enrichment time, you know, leave the enclosure that is my apartment and go and experience society. I definitely would have gotten this video out on time had I not done that, but, well, a day late isn't so bad. Back to my channel, like I posted on my community tab, I'll be doing a lot more streams. I plan to use these streams both to record some parts for challenges like I did with Durin, but also challenges that will be almost exclusively streamed. Like an Extreme Nuzlocke challenge I'll be starting on New Year's Eve. Beyond that though, I'll be definitely streaming games I don't foresee making challenge videos for, like Wuthering Waves. I've been meaning to give Wuthering Waves a proper chance, but I could never justify spending a ton of time playing if I wasn't making content, since there's, you know, only so many hours a day and I have videos to make. But by streaming it, I can get both an excuse to play it and branch out on my content. There's totally no other reason. With Duval and Return to Normal, we finally get to join Amber for some free food. Well, that can't be comfortable. We successfully wrapped up the Mondstadt Archon quest, and after streaming for 5 hours straight, I promptly went and slept for like 6 hours. Yes, it was 3 p.m. No, I did not care.
The next day.
With my face out of the corner and a far better recording quality, it's time to start our journey to AR23. More importantly, it's time to go over the pros and cons of Durin, both in general and from a solo challenge perspective. Starting with the pros, one of the most obvious pros is the fact that Durin is a Pyro character. Pyro probably, at least in my opinion, is tied with Anemo as the most useful element for both a solo run and early gameplay. Several mechanics throughout the Archon quests need Pyro, and it can trigger a reaction with literally every element in the game, making it beneficial against the sheer amount of slimes and abyss mages we face. Mostly. In terms of Durin by himself, as long as he has a decent amount of energy recharge, he has a nearly constant uptime for his burst in his light mode, which is good because he is basically completely reliant on his burst. On that topic, Durin has two distinct forms, his Confirmation of Purity form and his Denial of Darkness form. You can see above the health bar which form he's in, if he's in one at all. Going forward, I'm just going to call it light or dark mode. When he's in light mode, his burst will follow enemies and is amazing for damage. Additionally, when he's using his skill to enter the light mode, he will move towards the enemies before plunging down. He also has a much better time with energy recharge in this state, and when you unlock the first ascension and either Durin or a party member trigger Burn, Overload, Pyro Swirl, or Pyro Crystallize on an enemy, his light mode burst will cause those enemies to have both their pyro resistance lowered and the resistance to other elements in that reaction lowered by 20% for 6 seconds. His C2 increases that percentage, but well, you won't be seeing that in this video. When he's in dark mode, his elemental burst will shoot at enemies in fixed intervals. The targeting for this leaves a little to be desired, but hey, it could be worse. I'm looking at you, Mulaney and Sharky. Meanwhile, his first Ascension passive will increase melt and vaporize damage dealt by Durin when in his dark mode. Unfortunately, you will not witness me do that correctly in this entire video. Like I mentioned, I realized somewhere between Inazuma and Sumeru about the vaporize part, but I didn't even realize the melt part until I wrote this part of the script. Oops.
Read!
Additionally, while a huge percentage of characters are pretty weak against their boss, Durin's boss actually needs to be targeted by Pyro to heat up the boss and potentially trigger overheating and the paralyzed state. Being able to, well, not struggle against the boss is insanely rare for these solo runs, and I enjoyed it very much, especially after all the struggle with Gaming and Arlecchino with their bosses. As a sword user, Durin benefits from having a wide range of options available to him depending on how you build him, and as a character relying heavily on his burst, the fact that Noblesse Oblige's domain no longer has Pyro Abyss Mages, once we're able to unlock that domain, it'll be super easy to build him. Now, finally, this is just a personal opinion, but Durin is just absolutely adorable. I love him very much, and I will take no Durin slander on this video. All of the cons I'm about to talk about are squarely Genshin's fault. Durin is not at fault for any of this and can do no wrong. That being said, why does he have no exploration mechanic? More specifically, why can't he fly? I feel like nowadays, with how many characters Genshin has rapid fire released with a special mechanic that lets them move faster or get higher in the air, new characters without this sort of mechanic leaves a lot to be desired. It just feels boring, which I know is such a spoiled take, but especially since Durin uses his wings in his battling, I find it so odd that he can't do something like Wander, Auroron, or Silali. We literally have a flying motorcycle, but the dragon can't fly. Okay. While Pyro is incredibly beneficial in this game overall, Genshin has an obscene obsession with Pyro Abyss Mages in the Archon quests. Literally, why are they everywhere? What did we do to deserve this? One of the biggest cons for Durin in terms of a solo run is the fact his kit puts heavy reliance on being in a team to be his best, especially a team with other Hexarray members. However, I really found that once I figured out a good balance for him, he didn't really struggle all that much. He honestly might have been one of the smoothest solo runs I've done. Editing run here, I wrote that part before starting Sumeru. My opinion has changed slightly. As the game progresses, Durin begins to struggle more and more against hordes of enemies. I think as enemies have their HP increase, it takes longer to defeat them, and since his burst can really only target one enemy at a time, there's definitely a lot more struggling in later parts of this challenge. But we'll get there eventually. After beating up his boss a couple of times and visiting the still beating heart of, himself, we move on to completing missions in the handbook, which eventually brings us to AR23. Time for Durin to meet another dragon, this time in Liyue.
Rex Lapis has been killed. Seal the exits.
Okay, I guess we're not meeting the other dragon anytime soon. Instead, we meet
Boom.
a child.
who sends us to the mountains to train, or something. I don't know, I skipped the dialogue on replays. I still can't believe these two share a voice actor. Mooncarver's cooldown reduction really doesn't make much of a difference with Durin, because as I mentioned, his burst in just a normal setting has an almost constant uptime. So I kind of just ended up looking like Zhao, except, well, lighting the mountain on fire.
Someone has definitely cooked your.
I know I could just run this domain as intended, but that one puzzle with the pyro statues really requires a character with precise pyro application. And Durin, well, his pyro application is anything but precise. Now, if only we had the ability to easily fly to the other side. Perhaps utilizing wings. But obviously, since our dragon wings can't do that, we just have to try and climb the tree. Well, I'd like to say it's time to go find Mountain Shaper. In reality, we actually just have to find NPC 1's brother first. Wait, why are you here? Aren't you usually... Okay, actually, hold that thought. I have to deal with these first.
Keep bothering me and bothering me and bothering.
How are you still alive and still following me? Wow, what beautiful weather we're having. Perfect for standing outside on a balcony. Wait, where's the cat? This is foul. I literally come here for the cat. Now I gotta leave a bad review on Yelp. We beat up the Ruin Hunter, and I'm reminded in editing that his dark mode is better for vaporized reactions, but well, as I said, you won't actually see me switching between them properly. This series is as much for your entertainment as it is for me to learn how to use the characters, and I am obviously a bit of a slow learner. With the death notifications given out to all the relevant adepti, we return to Child and complete Act 1. You know who wouldn't need a gliding license? A dragon who doesn't use a glider to fly. Regardless, because plot, I decide to focus in on Amber's story quest. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be starting an extreme Nuzlocke soon, because I obviously hate myself, and I really need to make sure I remember this part because it kills so many characters in so many playthroughs. Debatably more than the Abyss. We accompany Amber to Springville to investigate Raptor, and wait, what? I have only done Zhongling's story quest on Arlecchino's account, and I have never been blocked from continuing Amber's quest because I didn't start Zhongling. This is foul. Okay, anyways, we went far enough in Zhongling's story quest to return to Amber's quest, and after beating up some hilly churls and some treasure hoarders, we enter the domain. While Durin has no problem with the hilly churl on the ledge and the power sources, unfortunately, like many challenges before him, he's unable to reach the hilly churl on the higher platform. If only he could, utilize his wings and fly up there. But for now, we'll have Amber help us. We have a much easier time with Raptor and crew, and complete Amber's story quest. Moving straight into Razor's story quest, I yet again forget about the dark mode and vaporize, but to be honest, against a slime, it's not exactly a huge difference maker. We beat up more hilly churls, and shocking nobody, we get blocked by Zhongling's quest again. Okay, I'm pretty sure Zhongling won't bother us again, so let's get back to Razor's quest. This wolf looks far worse now with the new wolves in the background. I guess they can't fix everything. We fight Andreas, and despite his light mode burst not really being the best for cryo attacks, it still works well for this fight. It lets you stay far enough away to avoid most of his attacks, and when he's in his animo form, his light mode burst actually does work. So it could be worse. With Razor's story quest complete, we've still got a bit to go to get to AR25, but luckily for us, there's one more quest that needs to be started to enjoy the Dainsleif quest uninterrupted once Liyue is over. After cleaning up Diluc's mess for him at the city gates, we eventually reach AR25, with a pretty unsatisfying freeze frame if I'm being honest. Actually, I think I've hit AR25 with this exact chest already on a different account.
It's weird that it happened twice, right?
Regardless, we ascend Durin and his weapon, and after some quick domain runs to level up his talents, we return to Liyue to begin Act 2. Listen, if you've watched any of my videos already, you know how I feel about Liyue Act 2. We're rapid firing this. Lighting the pot? No problem, Durin is pyro. Madam Ping's teapot? Majority of the enemies are cryo or hydro. Also very easy. The ballista? Nobody fell off the ledge, so I call that a victory. There we go. Act 2 done. I kind of feel like Chi-Chi and Durin would be besties. Is that just me? With Act 2 complete, we need to reach AR28, but first it's time for the Ascension domain. Actually, before that, I went and got enough materials from Durin's boss for his next Ascension at AR30. May as well fight the boss when I'm overleveled, right? Work smarter, not harder. Okay, with all of that out of the way, now we can actually for real tackle the Ascension domain. So, on today's edition of What's Ren Watching, the current anime season has pretty much ended, and we're in an awkward in-between time before the winter season starts. In terms of the winter season, I'm super excited for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3, Frieren Season 2, Fate Strange Fake, Dark Moon the Blood Altar, and Tomon's B-Side. I might start other animes, I don't know yet, but those are what I'm planning to watch. In terms of the fall season, I was primarily watching Dad's a Hero, Mom's a Spirit, I'm a Reincarnator, May I Ask for One Final Thing, The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, and The Banished Court Magician. I need to catch up with Gachi Akuta, which is my plan now since most of my season seasonal anime have been completed. By the way, this isn't promo or anything, but I get a lot of people asking me what animes I watch, and if you're curious, I do try to keep up with my anime list, at least seasonally, so I'll link it in the description in case anyone wants to see what I've watched. If I finished an anime, I at least liked it enough to keep up with it, so you can kind of take that as animes that I've enjoyed. Clearing the Ascension domain brings us to AR26, so I decide the most productive thing I can do is spend every last bit of resin we have in the weapons domain, which brings us to AR27. The next day, after completing my daily commissions, I decided to take on some of the one-off domains in Mondstadt. And while I didn't have Amber to pop the animo balloons here, Durin is an absolute icon, and he was able to reach the lower slime, which allowed me to plunge attack onto this slime and reach the final level of the domain. With no resin, I resorted to doing some exploration, which eventually brought us to AR28. Time to start Act 3. Wow, if only we had usable wings and could fly over there ourselves. I'm so glad we have a motorcycle character who can fly over, but the dragon with actual wings can't. We instead utilize our wings to fight the Millilith before lighting an entire island on fire in an attempt to rescue some guy. I don't know, I feel like lighting him on fire probably isn't helping him. Just a thought. However, he seems pretty thankful for it and provides us a box for our gift to Ningguang, meaning it's time to head to the Jade Chamber. Boo, they fixed the cursed Ningguang face. That's no fun. At Ningguang's subtle suggestion, we go investigate the Fatui. While I'm not subtle enough to avoid being detected by the Pyro Gunner, I'm able to surprisingly easily defeat him and trigger the dialogue scene without being noticed by the Hydro Gunner on the hill. A win's a win. Now, you would think, considering Durin is a Pyro character and the Whopper flowers are Cryo, that this would be super easy. Right? Well, you would be wrong. I don't know if I was just overconfident in my abilities, but this was far more of a struggle than I anticipated. Even more of a struggle than the Pyro Gunner a minute ago, which is strange considering, Cryo is weak to Pyro. And yes, I know his dark mode would have made it easier, but even without that, it's still Pyro and Cryo. Oh well, regardless, we eventually managed to defeat them, reunite with Ganyu, and decide to return to Liyue Harbor with Zhongli. You know what that means, it's time for our fight with Child. So as you all saw in the beginning of this video, I streamed for the first time. Honestly, I had a ton of fun too. I was worried that I'd struggle with keeping up with the chat and playing the game, but once I got into the swing of it, I really had no issues. I even ended up streaming for 5 hours, which for a first stream was probably a bit of an overkill, but I didn't even really feel fatigued. I did completely knock out after it was all over though, but well, to be expected. I think going forward, I'll probably try to stay under 3 hours for streams just for my own sanity and for my manager's sake for editing TikToks. But like I mentioned earlier, I plan to stream more often in general, so I'm sure I'll get more used to it down the line. With Child defeated, we magically teleport to the Jade Chamber, and in the most humbling case of misuse in this entire challenge video, I failed to utilize his dark mode vaporize mechanic for the entire 6 minutes. To spare my own embarrassment, we'll just skip it. I didn't die, so at least he did better than Lauma did. After saving Liyue Harbor and seeing a very lackluster rite of dissension despite an entire act being dedicated to set up for it, not even a cutscene. Really? We talked to Zhongli and complete Act 3, marking the end of Liyue. Since we were productive earlier and completed the story quests, we move right into the Dainsleif quest. Do you think the next time we see Dainsleif, he'll clock Durin immediately? Like, we know how he feels about Albedo, but I'd really like to know what he thinks of Durin. Regardless, we accompany Dainsleif to Amber's domain, but unfortunately for us, we're forced to face off with not one, but 2 Pyro Abyss mages. I'm starting to be reminded of my misery with Arlecchino's quest. Gaming wasn't nearly that bad since the Claymore makes it a little bit easier to shatter the shields, but the sword and polearm, well, at least I know to never do a Pyro Catalyst challenge. Unless, Alice or Nicole are catalysts. Then we'll just suffer. After fighting another Pyro Abyss mage in Wolvendom, and still failing to utilize Dark Mode Durin for the Hydro Abyss mages, we wrap up the Dainsleif quest. Time to return to Liyue for We Will Be Reunited. You know what? I've realized that this might be the only solo run where I've made it this far without dying a single time. I think that's a real accomplishment for Durin, and should be okay, that doesn't count. Anyways, We'll Be Reunited was kind of the last Archon quest I did before I began editing, and once I got into editing, I realized I wasn't utilizing his Dark Mode's Vaporize benefit. So if you've been sitting here, fists clenched, angry watching me do a bad job playing with Durin, worry not, because you're almost to the point that I finally realized the error in my ways. I unfortunately did not realize it with Melt though. For now though, we reunite with Dainsleif and accompany him around Liyue to check out some old ruins and look for Abyss Order activity. Luckily, the majority of Abyss enemies in this area are Cryo, so this was a nice break after the misery of of the previous quest. Mr. Mysterious talks our ears off, and we're punished for skipping his dialogue with the Pyro Abyss Mage, and no nearby areas to force an elemental reaction with his shield. No, Genshin, I'm so glad we have to fight multiple Pyro Abyss Mages every single Archon quest. It's truly my favorite thing. Doesn't make me long for a straitjacket at all. You know, actually, the real reason that I haven't been utilizing dark mode is because Durin is but a child, and he's far too young to learn about vaporizing, obviously. No, it's not a poorly thought out excuse. What are you talking about? We return to the domain, and I avoid making the same mistake twice with the bubbles, so at least we have some small victories. I have literally beaten you up twice in the last 10 minutes. Aren't you tired? Or, I don't know, embarrassed? I mean, come on, we both know how this is going to go. I know this whole quest is about reunions, but you're not really who I'm looking to reunite with. Can you, like, call Lumine in or something? Okay, I guess I should have specified to call Lumine for a, sit-down meeting, not just a hi and bye. What is this, a K-pop VIP package? We complete We'll Be Reunited, and after some more domain runs, we reach AR 30, meaning another ascension for Durin, and getting to begin the Inazuma Archon quest. Well, obviously, we don't need to look very far. In exchange for a trip to Inazuma if we win, we agree to participate in Beto's fight club. I mean her tournament of strength, or whatever she called it. We may be level 40, and we may only have a dull blade, but competing against a guy and his, fists, it's safe to say we don't face much of a struggle. After another round of sword versus fists, we accompany Kazuha to a secluded location to beat up some slimes. Obviously a much better use of my skill set. We realize our final round opponent stole the Masterless Vision, and despite that being the prize we really didn't care all that much about, we're still tasked with helping Kazuha catch the thief. Well, I guess that beats standing around here waiting for him to do it. You know, if you think about it, Durin's light mode burst is basically Kazuha's burst in a slightly different font. This would have gone much faster if his burst had recharged, but, well, can't get a perfect run all the time, I guess. We finish the prologue quest, and after saying our goodbyes to Liyue Catherine, we start Act 1 and make our way to Inazuma. As has been said before, Inazuma Act 1, similar to Liyue Act 2, is very slow. Inazuma Act 1, though, is really only slow to start, whereas Liyue Act 2 is just slow overall. If anything, it's probably for the best that Durin is with the Traveler, because he absolutely would have been fooled here and just returned to Liyue and started flying around collecting the flowers. Thanks to our well-timed savior, we get a ticket off Rito, so long as we can protect the transport balloon. Luckily for us, we're surrounded by water. Unlucky for us, I was still mostly utilizing his light form. Listen, even after learning best use, I still find his light form more fun to use, so my personal enjoyment always ends up taking higher priority. So, how was everyone's holiday? Did you get any major presents? Personally, I am waiting on the delivery of my new desk chair, which was my major Christmas present to myself. I have the posture of a cooked shrimp, and my current desk chair is neither particularly comfortable, nor was it bought with long-term sitting in mind. I think I bought it right at the beginning of lockdown, and I really did not expect that in 5 years I'd both still have it and be doing a lot of sitting for work. And as someone who is incredibly easily influenced, I saw this chair on TikTok, it looked insanely comfy, and it looks big enough to comfortably sit crisscrossed, which is ideal for me and ideal for May, who thrives when it comes to sitting on my lap while I work. I was debating getting one of those pet beds that you attach to your desk chair, but, well, I feel like even if I did have it, she wouldn't use it and would prefer me, or sitting on top of my PC and cooking both my CPU and herself. Truly a creature meant to live in the tropics, I fear, which is weird because even my homeworld wasn't, tropical, so I don't know where she got that from. Oh well, that's what blankets, my lap, and CPU fans are for. Free from Rito, we reunite with Toma at the tea house and immediately have to return to Konda Village so we can walk up the mountain to the Kamisato estate. Oh, how I long for an exploration mechanic. When we get there, we're immediately sent back to Konda Village. Yeah, this is feeling a lot like Liyue Act 2. I guess we have to have at least one of these quests in each nation. There's not a whole lot we can do for the 3 who lost their visions, since, we can't exactly give them a new one, or return their old ones. Well, at least not yet. Despite that, though, we get to meet Yaimiko, so a net positive, I'd say. Having been convinced to help Ayaka, it's time to hear her plan to end the Vision Hunt decree. So, what's the big plan?
I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far.
Great, okay. You know what? Our fault. We probably should have asked you that before we agreed to help you and meet the 3 vision bearers. Well, former vision bearers. While Ayaka comes up with a plan on the spot, we decide to go break more laws by helping Yoimiya rescue Master Matsukatsu from prison. Thanks to a lot of electromechanics throughout the jail, triggering overload was far easier than I anticipated, so a decent amount of fights went relatively quick. Free from jail, in more than one way, we finish Act 1, which means it's time for Ayaka to take a break from planning to drag us along on her errands around Inazuma. Well, I guess this isn't much different from me accompanying Midia to do Christmas shopping, so we'll call it enrichment time. While the enemies are pyro, which usually doesn't bode well for, a pyro character, we do get the benefit of being able to activate Durin's burst and stay far away from them, so it's like all the benefits of fighting with a catalyst character without having to rely exclusively on the Eye of Perception. We make some pizza for Ayaka, find a box, and wrap up her quest by forcing Durin to fourth wheel, I guess, the Traveler and Ayaka's not date. Up next is Yoimiya's quest, which is essentially Liyue Act 2, with a lot more dialogue. So the highlights are doing some weeding, then fighting more Tenryu Commission officers, and that's basically it. Yeah. We start Act 2 and find out from Ayaka that Toma has been taken by the Tenryu Commission to mark the 100th division taken under the decree. Do you maybe think we can just, stand here, not fight the almighty Raiden Shogun? No? Okay, let's get this over with. While Durin could have definitely lasted longer if I put in some effort, there's no winning this fight, so there's not really any use in wasting time trying to delay the inevitable. So before long, we trigger the cutscene, escape with Toma, and get sent to find the resistance forces. We find a resistance soldier cowering from some enemies. This, isn't really giving me the strongest first impression, but I'll let it slide for now. As thanks for, saving his life, the soldier brings us to the resistance camp to meet General Goro. This time, I decide to invite Sethos to help Durin with the archery demonstration, since, Durin's besties with Wanderer, and Sethos and Wanderer are friends, so that basically makes Durin and Sethos sort of friends, right? Thanks to Sethos, we're able to complete the archery demonstration, and after still underutilizing Durin's vaporize abilities, we head to the beach for some fights of honor, which basically went how you'd expect considering it was a literal dragon versus, some guys. Kokomi arrives to help force the enemies to retreat for now, invites us to visit her at Sangonomiya Shrine, and we finish Act 2. We meet up with Teppei to start Act 3, taking a very long and very cramped boat ride. Between this and Sumeru Act 4, I kind of wonder what has the longest distance between two necessary locations for the Archon quest. After meeting up with Kokomi and being named Captain of Swordfish 2, we prove ourselves to our new subordinates, and honestly, there's few things I enjoy as much as throwing enemies around. Durin obviously learned a lot from Jean in his training with a sword. With the enemy camps destroyed, Kokomi sends us to investigate some ruins, which means it's time to break out Lisa for some work. I guess you could say it's troublesome work. Get it? Because... Boo! Anyways, we kick Lisa off the team to fight the Law Trail, and I'm not sure what he was looking at here, but you know what? Sure. Durin's burst triggering overload makes easy work of the Law Trail, so we return to update Kokomi. As it turns out, Genshin still hasn't fixed the mysterious floating delusion, but, with the Wonderland thing, I'm sure they probably have much higher priorities now. We make the hike to the delusion factory, and thankfully, we haven't quite reached the point where Durin starts struggling against groups of enemies, so it could have been much worse. I didn't die at all, so that's a huge win in my book. After locking in to meet our bestie for the first time, we reunite with Yaimiko and get swiftly thrown into anti-Raiden Shogun training. I guess we got enough breaks during the previous story quests. The first round I can basically do in my sleep now, but unfortunately the second round consists of a whole lot of pyro slimes. If it's not the pyro abyss mages, it's the pyro slimes. Yaimiko informs us that her plan consists of breaking more laws by sending Sayu into the Tenryu Commission to steal documents, proving that they're colluding with the Fatui to deceive the Raiden Shogun. This is not really sending great messages to Durin about integrity. He's probably getting whiplash after spending all his time with the Knights, leaving Mondstadt, and immediately being sent to do crime. I guess it's crimes for the greater good, but Regardless, we have a quick meal with Toma and Ayaka, go find Yoimiya to get some fireworks, and set our plan into motion. I managed to, by some miracle, escape the eye of the guards, and once Sayu brings the evidence, we present it to Kujo Sara, who swiftly runs off to confront the head of the Kujo clan. We obviously can't let her do it alone, so time to beat up more guards. Despite Durin not gaining anything with physical enemies, in a smaller room like this, his burst is somewhat more effective, since enemies are more likely to be bunched up. I'll take the victories where I can. In terms of the Signora battle, admittedly, I was very nervous for this fight. Obviously, I didn't expect much of a struggle against Phase 1, but Signora's Phase 2... well. So while I showed off my schedule for January, it was pretty vague, and you're probably wondering what my plans are. Well, to be honest, I'm just hoping this schedule lets me stick to my upload goals, so I can finally catch up on very delayed Part 2s of challenges. This video was the first one that I really both speed ran editing and scripting, as well as the first time I started editing the video while still recording. And obviously that is a far better method, especially for things like Part 2s, where Fontaine, Natlan, and Nodcry are a whole lot of dialogue like Sumeru, instead of constant running around and fighting like Mondstadt through Inazuma. I mean, the fact that you can complete the entire Mondstadt Archon quest in 5 hours, including the leveling, and it takes nearly the same amount of time for just Act 5 of Sumeru, yeah, it speaks for itself. So I figure getting into the habit of editing while recording will just improve my efficiency. Everything is kind of a bit of trial and error, but maybe by this time next year, I'll have a nice system in place. At least I hope so. By some miracle, I make it through Signora's second phase unscathed, mostly, so it's time to take on A herself. Just like our first battle with her, round 1 is basically technically not possible to defeat, but I did make it longer than last time and got all the way to the Vision Hunt decree being triggered, so that's an improvement. Once Yayimiko arrives and buffs us with constant healing and general, buffs, we make, honestly, concerningly easy work of A, ending the Vision Hunt decree and completing the Inazuma Archon quest. Returning to Liyue, we talk to Catherine to start the Chasm quest, and after meeting with our commissioner, we head into the Chasm Underground. I am so thankful for Genshin adding this, and not having to do the Chasm Delvers quest anymore. We meet up with Dainsleif again, and agree to investigate the mysterious Hilly Trail activities together. After a few rounds of fighting with the Black Serpent Knights, we reach the innermost part of the Upside Down City, jump down, up to follow Halfdan and talk to the air. At least that's how it looked to everyone else around the Traveler. I'd like to say that I finally started utilizing his dark mode here, but I didn't. Truly a ride or die for confirmation of purity. Gotta prove to Durin that he is in fact best boy by never letting him use his dark mode. Obviously that's the real reason. Luckily his light mode has actual benefits against electro enemies, so fighting the Abyss Lector was, well, actually it wasn't any harder or easier, but at least I'm technically using Durin correctly, so I guess progress is progress. Unfortunately, it's time for everyone's, or at least my, least favorite part of probably any quests that I've played so far, the 4 rounds of Abyss enemies. While I was miserable with 3 separate Pyro Mages, it was far worse than usual because, well, it took a lot of mental strength to not rage quit at this point, if I'm being honest. Impressively, Durin still survives the whole ordeal without dying, which totally didn't inflate my ego or anything.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Don't worry, I'll get humbled shortly. With the Chasm quest complete, and after a few days of mental health recovery after all the Abyss Mages, it's time to start Sumeru. Like with Lauma, it's going to be pretty rapid fire, because as you know if you've played this quest already, there's more thinking than fights. I guess it's fitting for the Nation of Wisdom though. We join Tighnari in destroying the Withering, and oh my gosh, look at that. Did you see that? I'm using his dark mode. We're learning! And yeah, it made fighting the Hydro enemies a lot easier, I'll be honest. Moving on, we end up in the domain, and since these are, well, small fry enemies, I decided to just utilize light mode here since it charges his burst faster, and I just generally prefer using it. What can I say? You can lead a dragon to water, but you can't make him, vaporize it? That sounded better in my head. Regardless, I did at least utilize dark mode for the Abyss Herald. Not that it really matters much since we can't actually defeat him. Oh well. With the domain finished, so too is the literal last battle until we complete all our introduction tasks in Sumeru City and leave to Port Ormos to meet Alhaitham. There, after pestering him enough to give us money and send us to bother someone else, we pass some tests, meet Dori, pass some more tests, increase our fighting ability by, and finally get a fight versus the members of Ain al Akmar. The fight doesn't take very long and requires basically no movement, so was it worth the wait? Probably not, but I guess it's better than nothing. With Act 1 completed, we return to Sumeru City to begin Act 2. You already know what I'm going to say here. Day 1, we wake up, and we walk around the festival. The sages shut it down, and we go back to our hotel sad. Day 1, we wake up, and we walk around the festival. The sages shut it down, and we go back to our hotel, feeling a bit confused. Day 1. Wait, we've definitely done this before. After running around trying to piece together the mystery for Nahida, well, more for ourselves because Nahida knows already, we successfully find the host of the dream, Nilou was able to perform the dance of Sub-Zero, and free from the samsara, we finish Act 2. With the completion of Act 2, I decided to take on the Ascension Domain. I usually wait to run this Ascension Domain until after Sumeru, and this, admittedly, was probably my biggest mistake, and why I struggled so much through the latter half of this quest. But, well, it's more realistic that way, what can I say? However, since I made the first Ascension Domain be a yapping section, I will not be repeating it here, since the first and second Ascension domains are completely identical. It's truly nothing exciting. Back to Sumeru for Act 3, we send Sataria into a complete ego death and meet a character that I somehow have to regularly explain I hate because of how well written he is. He's a villain, and he's an incredibly well-written one at that, which is why I don't like him, because he's not meant to be liked, because he's a villain, and that's okay. Not all of the Fatui need to be redeemed. Some of them are just villains for the love of the game, and that's perfectly okay. Anyways, soapbox rant aside, we escaped to Torre, and instead of continuing the Archon quest, I decided to go to the Spiral Abyss so I could try to get Durin's weapon before his banner ended. I only had a few hours left, and I was nearly to pity, so this was probably my only chance. I managed to 3-star all of the floors that only required one team, so now it was time to get his sword. Or that. Okay, I guess Durin is sticking with Prototype Rancor until the end. Returning yet again to Sumeru, we fight some Eremites on our way to Gandharvaville, and find out our trip there was for nothing because Tighnari isn't even there. Where is he? Well, apparently he's at Pardis Di, but instead...
The first to betray me was a god. My creator.
My mother.
That may not have been what we were looking for, but it was what we needed, truly. With that piece of absolute cinema still fresh in our minds, we're sent to Karvan Rebat, where we meet up with Alhaitham and accompany him on an on-screen walk before the off-screen walk into the desert to Aru Village. There, we get ambushed by Sino, fight off some rift hounds, 2 unrelated events, and complete Act 3. Act 4 means following Isak to his grandpa's, tent, and then proceeding to enjoy
a healthy dose of prolonged eye contact.
before Sino finds what he's looking for and we return to the village. We accompany Dia to ambush the ambushers, or something like that, and after standing outside overnight, we proceed to go investigate the abandoned hospital and fight a Geolod churl. Now, I know I discussed this in Arlecchino, but oh my gosh, I miss Korean food so much. I've been thinking about it at least once daily. I generally had so much fun while I was there, and it's hard to believe it's already been 2 months since I left for the trip. Yes, I got super sick, and yes, I got very behind on my schedule, but it was so much fun, the food was so good, and even though I'd love to go back as soon as possible, I think my next goal will be visiting Japan or China. Mindy and I both agreed though that we can't go to Japan until we have a significant amount of money saved though, because unfortunately both of us would buy an obscene amount of goodies. I could easily spend a whole day and a whole lot of money at just one of those Korean game stores. It would be very humbling, I fear, for both my sanity and my wallet. And to be fair, considering how many orders I make from Taobao, I feel like I do an obscene amount of shopping in China as well. So I should probably just avoid travel until I have a significant spending budget and more space to put things I buy. Okay, listen, I know I usually do this without a Dendro character, but without a movement mechanic, I tried and failed twice, and I was on a deadline. I had neither the time nor sanity to keep trying, so I borrowed help from and left the monuments. To be fair, the Traveler is accompanying Durin on this adventure, so it's basically canon, right? We return to Aru Village, play Follow the Leader with Sino, and witness Dia doing a terrible job at negotiating before making a humblingly long journey across the desert. Okay, anyways, we make it to the domain, and spoiler alert, this is kind of where everything started to go downhill.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Alright, lesson learned. I need to stop going anywhere without healing food. I know most people do these challenges without healing food, but, well, this is me we're talking about. That should be all you have to know. After that embarrassment, we take another long journey across the desert to the Eremites base camp, return to Aru Village, and complete Act 4. Moving right into Act 5, it's time for a whole lot of running around before a very long period where you cannot quit the game without interrupting the entire quest. Can't believe this apparently gets worse in Notcry. We accompany Alhaitham to the Eremites base camp, accompany Dia to meet Tainari, and proceed to get absolutely smacked by the Fatui agents. It was obvious I was too overconfident at the start of this video and desperately needed to be humbled. I see the error in my ways, now please let me move on. Eventually we finally free ourselves from the Fatui, meet up with Bestie, and arrive in Sumeru City to get the final plan underway. How'd that go? Well, Alhaitham helps us get arrested, Nilou and Dia distract the guards, and while we rescue the Dendro Archon from, her mind, I guess, Sino ends up getting to be the one to dish out the final punishment against Azar. I mean, it's fine. Whatever. With some food cooked and as much mental preparation as I can muster, it's finally time to head into the domain to fight a bunch of Fatui guards and then fight the Skara robot. Oh boy. This will probably be the final yap segment of this video, so what are my thoughts on Durin? Despite some hiccups at the end of this half of the challenge, I really enjoyed playing with him. As I showed earlier, I got him and his weapon in my main account, so I plan to eventually level him up to 90 with his brother, Bestie, and Kokumi, because that team makes so much sense. He's really fun to play, and I'm really glad his release is also bringing with it some much needed buffs for older characters. If only they could buff their models too. Speaking of character model buffing, as of recording this, Genshin just teased the new outfits the twins are getting, and oh my gosh, I am so excited. It's unfortunate that it looks like Aether's crop top was sacrificed for the new outfits, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the new designs. Okay, so now that we're at the end of the year, I'd love to know what everyone has planned for New Year's resolutions. Do you participate in making resolutions? And if so, what's your resolution for the year? Are you trying to study more, spend less time online, sleep better, or something more niche? If you're comfortable sharing it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Though I probably brought up this exact topic in my live stream, which was before this video, unless you're a channel member, but it would be embarrassing if nobody responds to this, so even if you already answered in the live stream, still answer down below. Speaking of questions, I haven't filmed my Q&A yet, so if you want to participate in a Q&A I'm doing in January as an excuse to catch up on the Archon quests on my main account, head over to my last video and leave a question in the comments. Somehow, I managed to really not struggle much against the Skara robot robot. I even managed to defeat him in one round, which was kind of shocking to be honest. Unfortunately, fresh out of healing food, I had far less luck with the Electro Churl on the way to Irminsul. At least the second try we survived. Barely. After some much needed rest and a lovely feast where Durin got to properly socialize with a bunch of new friends in Sumeru, we meet up with Nahida and complete Act 5, finishing the Sumeru Archon quest. Now, I'm sure you're expecting me to go start the Kari Bear quest, and in any other challenge, I would. However, as of recording this, it's 1 a.m. on the 27th. If you're watching this on the day it's released, it's the afternoon of the 27th. Yeah. My time management could have definitely been better with this video, but unfortunately I found all my life that I work best under tight deadlines, so I fear this was inevitable. However, I would still like to get this video up after my birthday livestream, so I probably don't have time to speedrun Kari Bear along with finishing this video. So how about this? I'll make a video in the near future doing both Durin's story quest and the Kari Bear quest, so I'm not trying to shove it all in with Fontaine, Natlan, and Nodcry. Sound good? Regardless, thank you all so much for watching, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for the love and support you've given me in 2025. 2026 is absolutely going to be next level. I can feel it in my bones, so I hope you'll stick around and see where this channel and this community can grow. A special shout out to my channel members, and if you're new here, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit the little bell so you never miss an upload. Until next year!